What's going on, everyone? I hope you all are enjoying your Halloween. I just wanted to stop in and review Stranger Things Season 2. I literally just finished the second season at the time I'm recording this, and yeah, it's great. I love it a lot. So what's the plot for Stranger Things Season 2? Well, it's been a year after the first season came out. It's Halloween time. And you'd think after Will escaped from the Upside Down that he would be all normal and everyone would go on with their lives. But he starts having visions of something called the Shadow Monster, which soon possesses him. So once again, and for lack of a better term, strange things start happening in Hawkins, especially considering that Eleven, once again played by Millie Bobby Brown, has survived the finale of Season 1. So this is the first time I've started a Netflix show and watched it in less than a week, so I can actually do this review, because when I reviewed Daredevil, it took me a whole month to get through that season before I actually did a review. But Stranger Things, nope, got that out of the way, and in many ways, this season is better than Season 1, but at the same time, there are a few things that I had issues with to where I think Season 1 didn't. Also, I should probably mention right now that this review is going to contain spoilers. So if you have not seen Stranger Things Season 2, just stop what you're doing, go sit on your couch or in front of your computer, binge all 9 episodes, you'll be done with it in a day, and then come back here. Alright, so what's good about Season 2 this time around? Well, the production value seems a lot higher. They're given an additional 9th episode instead of 8 like last season, and a lot of the CG looks better. This show really does feel very cinematic and unlike a TV show. There's a lot of CG this time around, much more than in the first season, and it actually doesn't feel that bad. The Demogorgons are once again back in the show, but this time they're justified for being in CG. With the first season, my big complaint about the Demogorgon is that it's very humanoid, and since its only trick is to split its mouth open, you could have easily done a man in a suit and some practical effects. But here, the Demogorgons are more dog-like, so you can actually justify them using CG this time around. And there are still a few points, since it is a TV show where the CG does look kind of crappy, but a lot of the time it actually looks damn impressive, at least for TV show quality. There is a lot more character development this time around, particularly with Eleven, who, for a good majority of the season, with the exception of the last episode, she is separated from the rest of the characters. We find out that Harbour has basically taken in Eleven as his surrogate daughter. Basically, it's an attempt to keep her safe and a secret from those that would want to try to get her and experiment on her because, you know, she's telekinetic. And all the sequences involving these two characters are very well done because Harbour, as we saw in the first season, had a daughter, but she passed away. So this is an opportunity for him to try to make up for lost times. And just like he was in the first season, Harbour can be very cruel. He can appear to not give a shit at points. But as the season goes on and the bond between him and Eleven, who's revealed to be named Jane, goes on, you really start to feel a lot for these two. And that's something I should also point out. Eleven's birth name was Jane, and she goes on this journey to discover who her mother was, and she even finds out that she had a sister, I'm sure not by birth, but just in the fact that these two grew up together in that lab. But a lot of the character developments with Jane are very well done, and once again, Millie Bobby Brown does a phenomenal job. Although there is one portion of the show that is lacking when it comes to Jane, and you probably know what I'm talking about. We'll get back to that a little later. The rest of the characters are great once again. Mike, Will, Lucas, Dustin, Jonathan, Nancy, Joyce. I even liked Steve this time around, because in Season 1, I just didn't like how he was that generic, stereotypical bully in high school with his Elvis-like hairdo because he uses Farrah Fawcett hairspray. So when he was announced to be a regular in Season 2, I just thought, why? But watching the season, especially him interacting with Dustin, he's great. I really liked his character. He brought a lot of the laughs to the group, more than Dustin usually did in Season 1. And yeah, in the end, I ultimately like this guy. And Nancy and Jonathan still have really good chemistry with each other. I think Nancy and Jonathan are just more suited for each other than Nancy and Steve ever were. That's what my opinions were in the first season. And in this one, they start to grow a little closer to each other, but by the end of the season, it's not quite sure if they are boyfriend-girlfriend. They still kind of keep it vague, so I'm wondering what Season 3 has planned for these two. But overall, I really like these two together. This show really knows how to pull my heartstrings heartstrings emotionally, because poor Will, he just keeps getting the short end of the stick when it comes to bad things happening in Hawkins. And it just really hits me on an emotional level because, as I mentioned in my review for season 1, I can relate to his older brother Jonathan. So every moment involving the Byers family just really hits me emotionally, especially when we get to chapter 9, which is the last episode of the season. It really hits hard, and anyone who has a younger brother, it's gonna hit you hard as well. And since this is a spoiler review, I should say, no, Will does not die, but all the struggles that he goes through are definitely emotionally gut-wrenching at points. And it just really goes to show how fantastic all of these child actors are. Obviously have the two main child actors, Finn Wolfhard and Millie Bobby Brown, but everyone else is phenomenal, and they really do seem to put a lot of other child actors to shame, especially the kid that plays Luke on Modern Family. He's actually one of the main reasons why I stopped watching Modern Family, but this isn't a Modern Family rant, this is a Stranger Things praising session. There are some new characters this time around. One of them is this girl named Max. She is a girl who came from California and is the love affection for both Lucas and Dustin, with Lucas being the one who gets her in the end. Max is just a really fun character overall because she seems like someone who would fit in with this group of friends, no matter how much Mike is against it, because he sees her as a replacement for Eleven, which, come on, nobody can replace 11. Or Jane, I'm sorry. We gotta start calling her by Jane now. But I do have to say that her stepbrother is played by the actor who played the Red Ranger in this year's Power Rangers movie. And that character scares the fuck out of me. Every time this guy is on screen, every time he's around any of the main characters, or even around Max, you are on the edge of your seat. You're just biting your nails, nervous about what he's gonna do next. And for all the crap that I gave this actor in Power Rangers, he's actually very effective here, even if he is a one-note character, pretty much. And now let's get into the bad and the stuff that I think Season 1 did a much better job with. In the first chapter of the season, they play the 80s hard. They really pump up all the music selections from the 80s, the arcade stuff. At points, it just feels too overboard. And what I loved about Season 1 is that it had a lot of references to the 80s, but it was more subtle. And it was more in the filmmaking, where it looks like it was a show that was made in the 80s and then buried for 30 years. This one, they really go all out, and there's nothing really bad about it. It just never comes across as subtle to me. And also, there are few too many nods to James Cameron's Aliens. At first, it was kind of cool, but when we get into Chapter 9, which is the last episode, it plays up Aliens hard. Hopper finds out that there are these underground tunnels of the Upside Down, and whenever there's scenes that are set down there for a long period of time, they look exactly like the catacombs from Aliens. And there's one point where Jane, aka 11, has to close up that opening that she said that she accidentally opened up, and if you look closely, you can see what looks like a xenomorph silhouette. Maybe it was just me because I had aliens on the mind, but I swear to God there was a xenomorph silhouette near that big finale. And given that this season is set in 1984, I'm really curious to know how the characters are going to react once they actually see aliens. And the first big action scene, which is set in those catacombs, if they're going to go, wait a minute, that looks like the underground tunnels and the Upside Down. So if the Duffer brothers are smart enough to do that with Season 4, because I hear they are making a Season 4 after 3, then I will applaud them. Now here is the season's biggest downfall. You probably all know what it is. I think everyone's in agreement on what this is. It's Chapter 7, The Lost Sister. Basically what happens in this chapter is 11 finds out that she has a sister. Not a biological sister, but basically somebody she grew up with as she was being used in all these experiments. Sister's name is Callie, or 8, and she's part of this criminal group in which they claim that they're stealing from the rich and killing those who they see as bad people. So basically Jane tracks Callie down, goes to where this gang hides out, and the two are reunited. For a series that I praised for being on point with its story and just moving all the way to the end with no distractions, this chapter is without a doubt a distraction. The very first chapter opens up with this group of thugs and 11's sister robbing a bank and getting away, and that never comes back until this chapter right here. I understand that it's there to give Jane a little more character development, and I feel like that this element with Jane's sister might play a bigger role in Season 3, but in execution, it was kind of lackluster. It just felt so dull. I didn't really care for what was going on, and it's just really reminiscent of The Warriors. I wish I could say just skip this episode altogether if you decide to binge it, but as I mentioned before, the season opens up with these characters, and there are little seeds planted throughout some of the episodes leading up to this event, so you really can't skip it because you'll miss out on a bunch of stuff. Chapter 7 is the biggest complaint that I have, and one little thing that I wasn't too fond of is that the shadow monster that was promoted a lot during the trailers kind of falls into the background as the season goes on, and the end of the season shows that it's still around in the Upside Down, so that's kind of disappointing, and also the fact that it's pretty much a giant cloud in the sky, but overall, this was a fantastic season. I love how I got to watch the season as it was first released, rather than waiting over a year to watch it. The characters are once again great, the score is again phenomenal. I love the synthesizer 80s sound that this movie encompasses. It's killing me that we don't know when season 3 is coming out, and while I would love to say get off your ass and go see this right now, or just sit on your ass because, again, it's a TV show, I'm going to say worth seeing in your lifetime. Chapter 7 is such a distraction for a series that I've praised for its smooth storytelling that I can't really say that, on a whole, this is better than Season 1. Still definitely worth watching because I absolutely love this show. I can't wait for more. And that's my review for Stranger Things Season 2. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a comment down below and tell me what your thoughts are on this season, if and when you've watched it. And as always, this is the real Mr. Robinson telling you there's only one.